It is quite amazing as we see a growth in these homegrown terror attacks that we have also seen this growth in pushing gun control legislation that would, I mean, literally make people just sitting ducks.
Absolutely. Sometimes you have to defend the Constitution and free speech with a gun. I mean, think about what would have happened had that armed officer not responded so instantly with disciplined and deadly fire. We would be in a situation now where people, even if they wanted to engage in free speech, would be legitimately too terrified to even think about it after a Charlie Hebdo-style massacre or worse on our own shores. Sometimes free speech is defended with the barrel of a gun.
Absolutely. And there is a marked difference between the police in the situation of Charlie Hebdo and then what happened in Garland, Texas, because, and I understand that there's basically two levels of police force in France. You have the national police, and then, which I think those are the ones who don't carry, and those were the two officers that were stationed outside of the Charlie Hebdo offices. And they had no way. I mean, how do you, if you're not equally armed, how do you deflect against bullets with magic? I mean, this isn't the, or this isn't the Matrix, but, and then the ones, of course, obviously in Garland, Texas, were equipped. There had been calls, David, as I'm sure you know, of people from the left to disarm the police. People like Ed Schultz, people like Al Sharpton. Imagine what would have happened had that been the case. Are we close to that? Are we getting there?
You know, we're getting into a point where we have a dangerous global mistrust of the police because of isolated instances, some of which, as we know, some of these isolated instances around the country are based on falsehoods. But what happened here, these Garland police defended the Constitution. They upheld their oath in the most effective way possible. So it's important that we affirm and applaud those police officers who use discipline, deadly force to protect fellow citizens. And that's exactly what happened here. And that's typical. That's more the norm for police work. But you wouldn't know it from the mainstream media.
No, you wouldn't at all. But one of the things that we've also seen, too, is a number of polls, I think most recently the Pew Research Center, showing that for the first time in I forget how many years, people really are turning against gun control, even as these state-by-state legislative measures, like Oregon, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, they keep going forward. People, are they just looking around and seeing the likelihood of something like this happening? Is that what it is?
You know, people understand instinctively the need for self-defense, and they also understand instinctively that the government shouldn't be defining for them what self-defense means. One of the other takeaways from this is that everyone who speaks out against jihad, I don't care if you're Pamela Geller or if you're TheBlaze or if you're just a writer sitting behind a desk typing out columns against jihad, all of us need to be prepared. None of us needs to be a soft target. None of us are in a place where the police can necessarily instantly be there, where Pamela Geller was fortunate in that circumstance. So the idea that we should have less self-defense, even as ISIS is very publicly proclaiming its intention to strike in the United States, publishing hit lists, threatening family members of service members. You know, people understand the need for self-defense. Self-defense is a basic human right, and for the government to come in and to take that right from you or to define it so narrowly that it's meaningless, that doesn't fly with most Americans.
You had said, too, in your piece, and I think this is so right, you'd said it's wrong to say that yesterday America got lucky, talking about the Garland attack. And I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people say that, oh, you know, Garland was very lucky. You say, no, 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 luck had nothing to do with it.
It was planning, prudence, and discipline. Look, this officer engaged two rifle-toting terrorists with a handgun and killed them within seconds. That's not something that just accidentally happens. That is an officer who is planned, who is prepared for that moment, who is trained. The conference organizers did the right kind of training and preparation. And so that was not luck. That was the result of people planning for the worst and ready for the worst. And here's a point, though, that we have to understand as Americans. We have to do the same level of planning ourselves in our own local communities. And particularly if you're engaged publicly in battling online against jihad, in countering ISIS propaganda, and advocating for a strong American military response, you yourself should begin to take steps to be prepared so that you're not a soft target.